Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Strategic Alignment podcast. I'm super excited to be here today with a friend, brother, and mentor of mine, Lee Townsend. You know what, Lee? Without any further ado, I'm just going to allow you in an elevator pitch style just to share a little bit about yourself so the audience will get a glimpse in terms of who we're connecting with today.
All right, hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks Jamie for having me. So my name's Lee Townsend, and somebody who's really driven by mental health and the importance of it, and helping to empower men, particularly, but not only, to believe in themselves and to recognize the power that they have within themselves to achieve their goals and to self-actualize. So my goal is just to ensure that people overcome barriers and hurdles and live their best possible life. And I think another thing that I'm quite keen on as well is bringing communities together. So I work in the area of engagement where I'm engaging different communities, especially people from marginalized groups. And one of the things that I'm really focused on is helping people who are usually feeling disenfranchised to have their voices amplified. So people are hearing their views, their concerns, and they're able to stand up for the things that matter to them.
Wow, that's awesome. And as you're saying that, Lee, as you're on the Strategic Alignment podcast, you're sharing that. And, I don't know how many years, since we've connected, but I remember that of you always going the extra mile to cater for community and giving people an opportunity to experience their best self. But Lee, I'm going to be honest with you. When we thought about this topic, Lee, I was like, what on earth will Lee be talking about? For me, Lee, I'm always thinking that striving is enough. But today we'll be talking about from striving to thriving. So Lee, if you could tell us a little bit about what are the differences between striving and surviving, and why is it better to thrive than to survive? Or why is it better to thrive than to strive?
Well, striving speaks to basically working hard, really pushing against the strain, not giving up, being relentless and trying to achieve your goals. But sometimes the battle just feels insurmountable, although you keep pressing. But when we talk about thriving, we're jumping into this new domain where you've gone from trying to struggle through, where you're getting exponential gains, where things are just working out, you're achieving, you're hitting targets, you're reaching goals, and you're walking into your destiny.
So so you're saying to me then, Lee, that you have some folks who they're working hard, but they're just working hard. They're not in that sweet spot where they're experiencing their best self. What would you say to somebody who thinks that it's just by sweating that they're doing well while they're missing out on so much? What kind of gaps does that create when a person is in that space?
I think whether it's in business or our personal lives, it's all about the strategy. And if you apply the right strategy, you're going to have the ability to hit your targets more easily, more readily, and you'd adjust accordingly. So for many people, there's certain barriers that we haven't dealt with or been able to overcome. There could be trauma that we've been through in our childhood that's been unresolved. And that's been one of those things that's kind of been like a weight holding us down from making that progress that we'd like to make and move forward in our lives. So for me, I feel like when I look at my own experience, so I lived in Jamaica for 14 years, and Jamaica is what I consider to be home. But the truth is, I was born in London. When I returned to London, I came back and felt like I was an immigrant. I didn't feel like I was at home. And the struggle that I had to undergo in order to set my life up the way that I wanted it to be, and to get on the job ladder, it was a real challenge. I had to acknowledge certain things about my own life and make certain adjustments, so that rather than working 3 and 4 jobs, I could then move into a position where I could work 1 if I wanted to. But no, the Jamaican mentality, there's always more than one job.
So Lee, if you could tell us a little bit about, so you talk about, being able to accept where you are. In today's society, even though we have a lot of leaders and regular people who are struggling with the stress and the pressures of trying to fit in, why is it so important? Because I know listening to you and following your track and your trend is that you talk a lot about self-disclosure. But in today's society, it is led to believe that the more you disclose about yourself, or just accepting where your weaknesses and challenges are, it prevents you, or it puts a blotch in terms of your leadership path or others respecting you. How important is self-disclosure, and what do you have to say to people who find it difficult to disclose their challenges and their problems and their hurdles?
One of the things I've personally discovered is that adults are not much more different than children. So I ask you the question, would you like to know that your child's going through a struggle feeling down to the point where they might feel depressed or scared to go to school because they're being bullied, and to hold that into themselves and try and deal with it themselves? Or would you rather they shared it with you as somebody who cares and loves them and wants to see them be the best that they possibly can? Well, that's a rhetorical question, because obviously you're going to want your child to share with you so you can try and resolve the issue. In the same way, there's nothing different with us as adults. We can take that burden on by ourselves and seek to deal with it, or suppress it, as we often do as men. Push it down, ignore it, and just put a plaster over the sore. But no healing is able to take place in those circumstances. And if there's no healing taking place, what's happening is that you're allowing the pain to multiply. The last thing you want to have is a critical mass of pain taking place in your body or mentally in your mind. So for me, self-disclosure is a mechanism for me to, and I'm not saying that what I do is going to work for everybody. I'm not saying that I've got the answer to everything. I'm just saying that this is what I've done. It's been tried, tested, and proven in my life. And a lot of the men that I work with can relate to it. So for me, I believe that when I put something out there and I say, look, this is my struggle, or this is what I'm going to try and do to change something. So a lot of it is around my fitness journey. And I will post these things, not because I'm showing off or because I think I'm great or because I want a pity party, but because I feel there's some level of account. I've put it out there in the universe. I've put it out there in the community. The people that follow me on my socials are listening in. And then I feel like I've got a responsibility to follow through and deliver on those things, the goals and the tasks that I've set myself. But when you go deeper, and I shared about my anxiety before and how distressing it was, to the extent where when I reached a certain part on my journey to work, I'd almost have a breakdown at the railway station because I just couldn't deal with the stress. And it was almost like when I reached that certain point, it was a train station called Clapham Junction every day. It's like halfway point to my workplace. I really went through it. And what I've realized is that sometimes you sharing your vulnerability, you might not think there's a benefit to you initially. I was sharing my vulnerability in those cases as it relates to my mental health and the things that I've been through around anxiety, my inability to sleep, jumping up out of my sleep in the middle of the night and that kind of a thing. I was thinking by sharing that I was helping other men who were going through similar problems, but because of the way that we were cultured or raised, we didn't feel it was acceptable for us to speak about our well-being and our mental health. So as a result of that, I was sharing my story, but I didn't understand or realize that by sharing my experiences, my views, my truths, that I was actually going through a healing process at that time. It wasn't counseling, but it was something that was allowing a healing to take place and a transformation to take place in my mind, and allowing me to change my mindset as it relates to my commute and my traveling and that kind of a thing, and has put me in a much better place. So for me, I think that it's always helpful to be true to yourself. And I don't know how much truth there is to be found in avoiding something or locking it away and pretending that it didn't happen.
And what I'm hearing you to say, Lee, is that when we're not true to ourselves, then we prevent ourselves from getting the community support that we need. And sometimes by speaking it out there, it gives us an opportunity to work on it, because sometimes we have things going on and it's holding us back as leaders, as fathers, as husbands, whatever capacity we serve in. And we're wondering, why are we hitting the lid? And John Maxwell talk about the law of the lid. Well, many times we create our own lids because we're locked in. And as a result, as you said earlier, instead of thriving, we're just striving, because we're just occupying space, but really and truly we're dying on the inside. And from go ahead.
I'm glad that you raised the example you're saying, failing as fathers and as husbands and whatever, because your community doesn't necessarily have to be outside of your family. Your community is just beyond you. So for some people, you might think that your nuclear family is where you need to go, and that's your community where you're sharing. And if that works for you, then that's fine. For some people, it might be the religious organization that you belong to. So it might be the group at your mosque. It might be the group at your church. It just depends on what relates for you. So there's two organizations or two projects that I'm involved in. And one is called Men Cry Too. It's an international group of men that come together, men of a particular ethnic background. And we come together and we share our experiences of death, dying, and bereavement. And what we found is that amongst African Caribbean men, particularly, there's a reluctance to talk about these things. So we've got these men coming on every fortnight onto a Zoom call, and we're sharing our experiences. And that in itself allowed something beautiful to happen for me, where I grieved for my father 15 years after he died.
Wow.
And it was the most, I did it by myself, but if I wasn't sharing in these conversations with other men, I don't think I would have seen it like that. Because for me, once you're dead, you're dead. That's it. Goodbye. Okay, let's move on. I love you. I respect you. I'm going to live my life to honor your memory, but you're gone. And that process of sharing allowed me to experience, even though the person died a long time ago, but death in a different way, in a more mature way, in a more emotional and connected way. There's another group that I helped us facilitate as well, called Man to Man, and it's about football, so man to man marking. And at the end of that football session each week, every Saturday morning, we stop, we grab some water, eat some oranges, and then we have a time of sharing. There's a particular topic, so I might speak more often than not about different things, and men would share their views, and we do simple things. So this weekend, we're sharing about something that you appreciated that you saw take place on the field amongst the players. Now, most of these guys don't know each other. And then we link that with the same thing I said a while ago, that we're like children in terms of children need praise to move forward. Adults need praise. And we might deny it, but every man who's trying to court a woman or vice versa, they start complimenting them. That's the first step in trying to get that phone number or that date, right? And that's that complimentary process, that encouragement, that you're so wonderful, you're so great. And that usually allows somebody to feel good, to feel elevated, to feel wonderful inside or awesome and open. And I feel that these little groups allow for these things to take place. And what happened when we left, there were some younger guys that were playing with us in their 20s. You know, I'm old. And they left and they all came over and shook my hand and said, thank you so much for the words of wisdom. And it was just a touching feeling. And you can hear in the WhatsApp group afterwards people saying about the message and how it felt, and they're definitely coming back because it's more than a football game. And I forgot that your audience is mainly based in North America. So when I say football, I'm talking about so think about what's that team in Miami now that Beckham has?
Yeah, Beckham, but I'm Orlando. You have the team here in Orlando too.
Okay, so what's it called? Real Miami or something like that?
Yes, yeah. That's it. But believe I'm happy that you share those pieces and the fact that finding community, sharing about where we're coming from, the challenges that we have, and also not just dealing with it, but looking at the impact that it's having on our community, whether it's our immediate community in our family setting or the community that we serve or lead, and also from a strategic perspective, how it's impacting our growth in the wider world. Because sometimes we are struggling, like you talked about the anxiety and other things, and you're like, why am I in this position? But sometimes it's because we need to share what we're going through. And by doing that, it helps us in the healing process. And when we're healed, then we could assist others in the process. We could share our journey in terms of them doing that. There's something that you made mention of too that I want to talk about, and that has to do with self-doubt. And that's a big thing for many of us. The imposter syndrome in terms of self-doubt. And I remember I was watching one of your videos on, I think it was Instagram. You were talking about that at one point, and I watched that thing for maybe like 5 or 6 times. I kept going over that joke, just watching it and hearing the nuggets that you were dropping. But self-doubt, my question, Lise, what role does self-doubt play in the level of success that we experience in our personal and professional lives? And why is it that's something that we need to pay attention to as we journey through life and leadership and just being who we are?
So we're creatures of habit, as you know, and if we're continuing to perpetuate this negative thinking about our abilities, then it's going to have a clear limitation on the type of things that we go on to attain or achieve. Now, there's some people who are outliers, and they're going to always achieve irrespective. But for the general population, what we take in is what we're going to believe and what we're going to act out. So I think that if we're self-deprecating, which is something that I've suffered with for a very long time, it prohibits you from really taking chances, from believing in yourself enough to step out. And I'll give you a case in point. If you go to a circus or you see an elephant anywhere, what happens is they tie them up from a young elephant with a piece of rope and a peg in the ground. Now, because they've been tied by that peg from childhood as a baby elephant coming up, even when they become adults and can lift up, probably tip over a double-decker bus, right, with their trunk, they're still going to believe that that rope prohibits them from moving. But if they lifted their foot or their hoof or whatever you call it, they would lift that peg up a long time and fling it away and be able to do whatever they're doing. So the mindset is like you've been enslaved by your thought process. So I always use these 3 examples. If you're religious, the Bible says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Bob Marley says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery. None but ourselves can free our minds. And those of us who work in IT, you're going to say garbage in, garbage out. And that's true to form for life. So if you're putting this trash in your mind that you're not good enough, that the work that you do is substandard, or you don't want to accept praise for the things that you do, and that's another common problem amongst many people. Oh, that was such a great job, Jamie. Yeah, but anybody could have done it. You know, it wasn't that hard. But the reality is sometimes we need to just, there's nothing there's nothing to be described as not being humble by accepting praise and saying thank you and moving on. There's nothing wrong with that. So for those of us who have been educated though, or taught by our parents that we need to be humble, you know, the humble, in the Caribbean, we say the humble calf drinks the most milk. I'm not trying to get fat out here. In fact, I try not to even eat dairy. So if you want to congratulate me for something, I'm trying, I'm working on it. I'm still a work in progress, trying to tell myself that, thank you. I practice in the mirror. Thank you so much. Or I really find it heartening that you'd share that with me, or you'd say that. A while ago, you said to me that you watched one of my videos 5 times over. I was saying in my head right away, I wish you told me that before. Because the thing is that I haven't put a video up for about a year. And yet my YouTube channel grew so fast. But it's like, you find all these things to start questioning yourself, and then you don't follow through and put things out. I've got all the equipment, but I just haven't put anything out. And there's excuse after excuse. But hearing that and being here in this space, and I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be here, knowing that I'm worthy enough to be here. Not that, you know, I've given you some money to pay my final way in, but knowing that I'm worthy to be here. And I'm thankful for the universe for allowing me to have grown and to progress. I remember coming back to the UK, and I was speaking in Jamaica, and that's how I would supplement my income. So I thought I could get some engagements over here, and I was offering to do it all for free. I've been in the UK since 2007. It's only now that I'm beginning to get regular speaking engagements. And I'm speaking at government offices, international conglomerates, financial organizations, and the list goes on. I'm not saying that I'm the greatest speaker in the world, but I'm in my zone and I'm owning my space and I'm making the best use of every opportunity that I can receive. You know, I think it was Napoleon Hill that says, no matter what skill you've got in the world or how small it is, there's someone out there that's willing to pay for it. Mm-hmm. And I have to remind myself of those things and speak those positive affirmations in my life to keep me moving and to keep me growing so I can reach that place that I want to be. I have a vision board. Yes. And on that vision board is a clear outline of the things I want to achieve and the things I want for my children. You know, and affirmation is something that we practice in our household on a regular basis. Every day, my daughter has to say something before she goes through that school gate. And I can tell you off the top of my head, it's just, I exude confidence, I lead by example, and I always show compassion to others. Then we high five, hug, kiss, and she goes off into school. Purposeful walk.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that, Lee, because, you know, many times, whether you're in the leadership space, in a regular space, we find ourselves or we struggle with making the next best step to put ourselves in the best position. And oftentimes we blame the peg while we are being held back. We blame the rope. We blame everything as not understanding that we have what it takes inside to move forward. But we have to, unlike the elephant, we need to recognize how strong we are, the fact that we have skills or talents. As Floyd Mayweather said it like this, he said something to the effort like, I'm not the sharpest knife in the box, but I'm a sharp knife and I'm in the box and I'm pretty sharp. It means that even if you don't consider yourself to be the best, there's something that you have that will make a difference and have the kind of impact that you want to have. And I'm going to close it with this question, Lee, and I'm going to ask you this. How important it is for us to pay attention to our mindset. You know, and you've addressed several groups and you've seen people make adjustment and you've seen you making adjustment in your own life. How important is it for us to address our mindset as we go through life, as we make decisions, as we look for wins, as we face challenges, as we face obstacles?
So I spoke to you earlier about the importance of community, but you have to identify for yourself when it's time for you to take yourself away from that community and to do something by yourself. So we have a group of guys, most of them are in that football group as well. Some of them are in the Fathers Forum too. And we go to the gym 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday to Friday, every day. But what I found is that when I was training with them, I wasn't able to push myself to the maximum level. I couldn't push to the level that they were at, but I could. It's almost like I felt weak because someone's looking at me and they're. So I pulled myself away, and I said, you know what? I'm going to focus on running, and I'd go on the treadmill. So when I started on the treadmill, I used to feel sick. I'd come off, and I could feel everything moving like Matrix. But I stuck with it, and the furthest I've ever run in my life was like 3K. Now I'm 45 years old.
Yeah.
And I started practicing by myself, and I put, well, I did this today. I walked this amount. I ran this amount, and I list what I've walked and what I've run and how far I went. Until the day came when I ran 5K, and when I got to like 3.5, I could feel like my shorts fixed in an uncomfortable position, and I knew that it's going to cause me to chafe on my leg if I continued. But I was so close, and I knew it was a mind thing. I learned that it was all in my mind. I can do this, just 0.5 more. If you hit that 0.5, you can do 0.6. And that's how I kept going through. And I could feel my leg burning me, When I finished, my leg was just short of bleeding. But I hit my target. And what I realized is that the running, it was not about the fitness level, because I had that long time ago. I play squash, I play football, I'm out all the time, I jog or whatever else. I had that a long time ago, but what I did not have was the mentality to follow through. Because growing up, I was always, at school, in primary school, they used to call me fatso.
Yeah.
I was so fat. So running weren't my thing. I remember I came third in a race at sports day, and I told my dad, and my dad said, third? Why are you telling me that? Third don't count. I only want to know when you come first. So psychologically, it was a barrier for me. And the running was a barrier for me because I'm never going to come first. And that's why with my child, if she kicks after a ball, she's playing football, well done, excellent shot. I don't care whether you hit it or not. Mm-hmm. My daughter knows that she doesn't get in trouble in school for getting it wrong. She gets in trouble in school for not trying.
Wow.
So I think that your mindset is going to determine how far you push. If you push through those barriers, it's only going to come with some sense of self-belief or some sense of, I have to take this risk because I've got nothing to lose. So I used to have a big problem with Richard Branson, fake it till you make it. I'm a man of integrity. I don't lie. If I can't do it, I just can't do it. But then I adjusted my position to say, fake it till you make it could be fake in the sense of belief in yourself. You ever hear these liars who lie so much that they believe the lie?
Uh-huh.
So if you're in a place where your belief about yourself is negative, start lying to yourself. Until you believe that becomes the truth, then you're going to know. That's why you see people who, this world is a very materialistic world. So you'll see people who, according to the world standard, are completely unattractive. But their partner is extremely beautiful. Because they had some sort of gusto, some sort of self-belief, some inherent self-belief and courage to step out and to show who they are, their personality, their charisma, their charm, their presence. And if we can walk in that space and live in that realm where we're demonstrating our greatness or demonstrating our wonderfulness, how beautiful we are as a person, people are going to draw to that. The one thing that I've learned, people like to be around success, not boasting, not gloating, not showing off, but people who are successful. And success comes in many different forms. My quote, and if you're going to use this, make sure you put my name beside it.
Yeah.
Peace of mind is the greatest source of wealth. So if you have peace of mind, you're richer than Richard Branson, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and the list goes on, because you sleep peacefully at night. You wake up with a smile. You live for joy and laughter and warmth and embrace. And if you're in that position, then you're in a place of greatness. So back to your question. If you don't believe that you can pick up a pen and write on a piece of paper, P-E-N, belief is the first stage of doing it. And if you don't believe in yourself to try, then you're twice defeated. So your mindset is absolutely crucial, And that's why I'm such a strong advocate of a vision board. Because when you've got those pictures up on a piece of paper or on a wall and you're looking at it daily, even if you can't have the strength to tell yourself these lies, at least seeing it, there's a little something seeping into your subconsciousness. And after a while, the penny's going to drop and you're going to actually believe what you've been trying to sell to yourself. The neuro-linguistic programming is going to start seeping in. Almost like when you're seasoning chicken. So if you're from the Caribbean, you know that we have to marinate our meat a night or two before and put it in the fridge. And when you drop it on the grill, the fragrance and the aroma that's coming from that pot. So for my life, I have to put as much positive in this head as I can, because I want, when I start moving and that heat starts to blow, you smell that aroma 25 miles away and the leaves coming, and I mean business.
I love it. I love it. Look, Lee, as I said, in backstage, we said that we'll have to do 2 parts of this, but you have convinced me that we need to have a next segment for this. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to have such positive conversation as we have addressed overcoming challenges, dealing with self-doubt, wellness and self-disclosure, mindset. And Lee dropped something new on us today is that, moving from striving to thriving. Lee, before we close it out though, Lee, how can they find you? And if you have any last line of nugget that you like to share with those who are listening, and also share where they could find you, what are some of the things that you do in terms of speaking and all the other things that you do? The time is here for you to share with the audience exactly how they could find you and how they could make use of your services.
I would just say this to everybody. We've all got challenges, but sometimes you just need to close your eyes, count to 5, and step off with a confident left foot. Make that first step towards the things that you want to achieve and the places that you want to go. And sometimes you need help. So don't be afraid to tap into a life coach, to tap into a trainer, to go for counseling or therapy, to do a course. Don't be afraid to ask in your job where you're working if you can understudy somebody or if you can cross-train. Because if you stay in your same realm, don't be afraid. Oh, let me just point this one out. Whoa, hold on, let me just put this one in. Don't be afraid to join a website like meetup.com, which is not about finding relationships or mates. It's about engaging in activities that you have an interest in to make new friends. Because if your circle stays the same, chances are you will remain the same. So you need to step out of your comfort zone, close your eyes, count to 5, take the step. If you want to find me, you can find me on Instagram at I am Mr. Townsend. It'd be great if you could follow, drop me a message. I respond to all DMs when I have the time, and I definitely get through to all of them. And you can also find me on YouTube. I believe it's I am Mr. Townsend, or on YouTube, or on Twitter, TrueLee478. So that's True_Lee478.
Wow. Lee, it's a pleasure having you as always. And guys, you stay tuned in because he'll be back with us as we take this further from striving to thriving. And the last word is that take care of your mental health and don't think less of yourself than who you are, because if you undervalue yourself, then others will not add value to you. It's always a pleasure, Lee. Thank you very much for joining us. And guys, please share and subscribe to our podcast. And we're always here adding value because we say, guess what? Inspiring growth while sustaining excellence.
Thanks for having me. Thank you, Jamie.
Thank you for listening to the Strategic Alignment Podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please subscribe to our podcast by visiting our website at www.pottingerandassociatesconsulting.com.